I had one of these nights where I worked late. I went and bought supplies. I came home actually really inspired and excited because I'm just getting back into this work and got a few new materials and had a lovely evening painting. I should have stopped at a certain point and moved on to the next canvas. I overworked a canvas and I was really, yeah, sometimes it just doesn't go well. You can paint all night and you try to paint it out, and sometimes that doing something to interrupt the whole thing can help you look at it. But anyways, I'm here working on it today. I should put it down, which I'm gonna do. It feels like I just overworked it. There was something there that was really nice when I started, and the whole thing was painting on gesso and opposed to these kind of dyed canvas. I also kind of failed with, I think those canvases, they got really dark. They're gonna be hard to paint on. So I don't know, all experiments, there can be failures when you're doing things you haven't done and kind of experimenting with materials and ways of painting. So it is what it is, and I just keep going and try not to be too focused on this. It's always better to stop sooner than later. So that was my lesson for the night. But it might be okay when I look at it in a few days. So this one is prepped and ready to go. So this could be interesting. This is another way to kind of start. So these are like a prompt. Rabbit skin glue is a little wet. I probably should do another coat. I'll see. But I'd like to paint on it. So I'm going to do 5 ounces to 1 teaspoon. So that should be enough. If it's not, I can add more. This is how it comes. I order it online. They don't carry it in the store any longer. Maybe people don't use it. I don't know. It's possible. It's a thing people don't use so much. It would be nice if I had an extra strainer, because what you don't want it to do is clump. So I don't know if you can see this. I am going to just kind of keep stirring it. And that's it. That feels, I like it could be a little thicker. It's interesting because it's filling thin, but maybe it's just because it will thicken. All right, I'm gonna stick with that, I guess. It seems, doesn't seem like enough. I'm just gonna wing it. I'm just gonna add a little more, because I believe it should just feel a little more viscous. Okay. So these were the canvases that I dyed yesterday. I think I'm gonna iron them while they're still a little damp. They're very dark. They might be really too dark to paint on. So again, an experiment. We'll see how that goes. It's been a long afternoon, evening, and I'm going to fold my tent for now. So I finally started putting threads in one of the canvases. It's a very, very slow process, so I've been putting it off, and I just have to get in the mode and get my things out so I'm ready to do it. Part of what I did the other day is create another area for work, so I think that my kind of sitting area, I'm going to sort of have the same setup right now. I'm just a mess, but it's really about having, for me, a system in place or things set up so that I can easily access, because what I have been doing is cleaning everything up and then pulling things out. Here I'm looking at which side of the canvas is more interesting. This is a starting point, or I'm sort of discovering new ways to have a prompt to create these paintings. And the dye effect has really been interesting. I'm taping around on this masonite board, the canvas flat. Instead of stretching it, it's going to be sort of better to paint, potentially better to sew in. So I'm going to see how that goes, and add the rabbit skin glue on the board. it should be okay. And this will be an easier system for me going forward because I can then just roll up the canvases and not have to deal with the stretcher bars until it's ready to be shown. Here I'm putting in the rabbit skin powder glue and mixing it in hot water. And it's pretty easy to do. I've always liked rabbit skin glue from when I learned how to paint. I liked learning the traditional methods. It's a natural, I gravitate towards natural materials opposed to more synthetic or plasticky materials. And that's it. It's fairly easy to do. I'm just going to pour it on here, and should have a bigger brush, but I don't want to gum up another brush. And then from here, I'll do a couple coats, get it on thick enough. In theory, I should sand in between the coats. I just read that for the first time on the package. I'd never done it before. The canvas is dried really well and with the rabbit skin glue, and seems like a good surface to paint on. I forgot to show the beginning of these paintings, but this mounting them on the masonite seems to work really well. I'm starting to use this gel plate to press and paint on these heart paintings. It gives a texture and, again, that kind of lack of control, but just another way of adding paint. The other thing that's been really different for me is I'm using a tiny brush, which I tend to like, have worked with bigger brushes, and this is just to, I'm really working on a micro level, putting small details to not interfere with what's there. And that's also been a little bit different for me. The other thing, I think that I'm trying to always approach it a little bit differently each time, to not have one way to paint these, whether I'm, sort of adding, however I add details, whether I start with a dark brown background or a light background. And I think on this one I ended up kind of even sanding down the surface after a little while, and which worked somehow. It is a little bit challenging to work on a dark canvas, but I'm really liking the different quality that I'm getting with the dyed background. I can use some of these dye areas, inconsistency in the dye and folds of the fabric, to be, a sort of a prompt, and that's what keeps it interesting. I try to make sure the prompts are always different. Like, in other words, feel free to start it in a different way every time. Feel free to finish it at a different time. I think that the main thing is to try to not overpaint, and I think leaving less or doing less than needed. But I don't know, sometimes you've got to just paint through things. I'm really enjoying this process. And the next morning I decided to take it in the tub to take a closer look. drawing of a screaming, protesting lady in a while. This comes from I don't know, sort of inspired this actress who is part of the Me Too movement in Paris, showed up in the newspaper. So I did this drawing today, and it's been a while since I've done these drawings, and I just did it, and the size is smaller than I meant to do it. So I think I'm going to just cut my paper in half because I am trying to work now with this kind of more delicate Japanese paper. It's not terribly precious, but yeah, oof. I guess we have to unroll the whole thing. It's a strange size anyways. It's very narrow, long and narrow. So I'm not gonna do this one big and not worry about it. Just cut it in half. It's getting to be close to the holidays, and I should be doing things for the holidays, but I really have very few days before family things start happening, and I want to work a little bit on the heart paintings, and I'm going to do this print today. I don't know, just a lot of things I want to do and work on, and it's just part of it. I think the holidays are always exciting, but at the same time get me away from what I want to be doing. That's a terrible thing to say, but it's not a terrible thing to say, but it's kind of the truth. Now, I'm considering, I have my glass set up over here now, so maybe I should just work over here when I do the prints, and this will just be my print table, and that over there can be where I work on the hearts. So I feel like two things that I did right now were not intentional, kind of an accident, just the scale, and so it's forcing me to now use half a paper, which is great because now that paper can go twice as far. So that's good. It's very wet. This is much wetter than I've done, and it seems to work really, really well. I'm loving the effect on this paper. So this has been great.